All right, so I am Meg Hewitt, and I, with Mark Birch, who's the one running around taking pictures, run this meetup event. So thanks to him for helping me start this network of amazing people. He's helped me help it grow. We're almost at 1,000 prospectors, is what I speak to you as via email. But you are prospectors, and that is incredibly amazing. I've been doing this for just about 1.5 years now, and it's so cool looking at this group compared to my first couple, which was just this hodgepodge of people that I had no idea what any of them did, and tried to make something applicable was really challenging. So I love that I think most of you have probably the same, you're hoping to get the same stuff out of this as the panelists are going to speak about. So I'm with Greenhouse. I run the sales development team there. Liza is on my team. And other than that, this is not going to be about me. I'm going to try to keep my talking to a very minimum today because we have some awesome panelists that have lots of good stuff that they've been working on. So let's go ahead and get it started. If you have questions, we will ask to leave them to the end because they will all have lots of different perspectives. And keep in mind, they'll be able to stick around for a couple minutes afterwards to answer any individual questions. If you feel like you have a really good one-off question that speaks to one person, ask it to them rather than in the Q&A. Cool? All right. Nice. So let's go ahead and get started with a quick intro of who you guys are. So 45 seconds, who you are, where you went to school, and what got you into sales.
I'll start off. Hey everyone, I'm Ron Cantor. I'm Director of Sales Development at Pure 5. And well, I guess should we get into what we're doing for work?
Yeah.
All right. So Pure 5 is a serverless content delivery network. It's built for live streaming and video on demand. And what really makes us special is that we don't have any servers, so we're able to scale at a rate that our competitors really can't touch. And so I went to Tulane University, and what brought me into sales was I just don't think I'm really made for anything else. So that's how I ended up over here.
All right, hey guys, my name is Liza Katz. I work at Greenhouse. I'm an SDR. Before Greenhouse, I was actually in school. I went to Duke University and I was studying environmental science. Graduated and did not want to be in a lab, loved animals, but didn't think that was applicable to a career. And just wanted to be client-facing, work with people, and help people solve daily business issues. And was onboarded really well and have been able to have a lot of success, so loving sales.
How's everyone doing today? My name is Greg Goldberg. I'm a senior SDR at Namely. I got my master's from Concordia University, my bachelor's from Montclair State University, and I grew up in a family of salespeople, so I just love sales.
Hey guys, I'm Jeremy from Percolate. Before this, I was selling cars for years, so if you want to speak after this about when the best time to buy cars, I'm your guy. I've been here for 14 months. I'm a BDR, and I went to Arizona. Any Wildcats out there? Okay. So I'm a BDR. I moved here with my fiance, now wife, and I don't know, I applied to like Crane's Top 50. This was the one I liked. I've been really happy here, so now I'm in sales.
Sorry, I'm just gonna, there's a little feedback here. All right, let's do that. Cool. Actually, can you hear us? Do we have to pass the mic around? We have to. Okay, we'll see. Let us know, please just kind of holler if it sounds like you can't hear us. Okay, so you guys can share the mic. I don't think I get it. So it's the beginning of Q4, which means a lot of people probably have some big numbers to hit, whether you're on quarterly goals or monthly goals, or you're just working to make sure that your entire company finishes out a year strong. So what are you guys going to do in your roles to set yourself up for success, and what does that look like? Right, yeah, take this on.
Take this one. I start off every new quarter the same way. I'll start every day. I go through all my opportunities, all my inbound leads, all my contacts that I want to reach out to, just making sure my pipeline is as strong as possible. This way I know I'm reaching out to everyone that I can. Because in the end of the day, it's who I reach out to and how many times I reach out to potential customers and prospects that I'm going to get people that are interested in the product that I'm selling. That's the strongest way and the easiest way I'm going to hit my numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do everything I can to reach out to as many people as possible.
Yeah, that's Greg makes a good point. I think for me, looking at a quarter is 3 months. It's a long time, and it can be overwhelming to think of a quarter as your goal. So for me, I look at a month, I look at a week, I look at the day, and it's what do I need to do each day per hour, whether it's calls, emails, prospecting, to get my number that I want for the week, which just builds on itself for the quarter. That's been successful for me, and yeah, that's what you see my voice will turn.
So really quickly, I want to jump to, like, how do you make your day, Liza mentioned, like, how do you make your day really digestible? If you're thinking of a day-to-day basis and breaking down the tasks that you have to get done to do a good job.
So I think what's been really useful for me is kind of knowing the aspects of the day that I find myself most productive and the times of the day where I'm, maybe more tired or don't have as much energy. So first of all, I would start by, I have tasks on my calendar, like right above on top, and I usually have about 5 to 10 of those a day, and those are my must-dos in the beginning of the day. And that's separate from any other place I take tasks, just so I make sure that I'm getting those done before anything. And then for me personally, like I know I'm tired from 9 to 10, so maybe doing an activity that doesn't take as much outward energy, but is still productive. And then making sure times that, I find myself that I'm most productive, like being on the phones and giving my full self and, using other parts of the day strategically. So like knowing yourself and knowing your strengths and weaknesses and then maximizing on both, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree, and maximizing the strengths and weaknesses of who you're going after as well. So I don't know if we have anyone from smaller companies in here like mine, but we're absolutely global in everyone that we're reaching out to. So I need to wake up, and the first thing I do is look at the clock, and I think, with all my opportunities open, what time is it in each and every one of these places? And I structure my day accordingly. So I begin my day talking with India, slowly moves around the world, and it's going to finish up with East Asia and China. And I have a lull in the middle of the day where I do all my administrative work that I absolutely look forward to. But it's not nearly as good as communicating with people. So yeah, in human biology and your own clock goes with it a lot.
One thing that I would add to it, Liza made a great point with using the calendar to have tasks for the people you have to reach out to right away, most urgent. What I do that is really helpful is I created a Word document where I highlight and I list the different activities that I need to work on throughout my week, throughout my month, and throughout my day. This way I make sure I hit my qualified opportunity quota, I hit my accounts created quota, I'm doing everything that I'm responsible to be doing. I found it really, really helpful, just from an organizational standpoint, because like was mentioned before, a new quarter, a new month could be really, really overwhelming, but if you break it down like these, it just becomes so much easier to handle.
So you mentioned a couple pieces, Greg, about your quotas. So what you're actually measured on, which I love that you said you're actually quoted on the amount of contacts that you bring into the system each week, each month? Each month, yeah. So what are some other things that you guys are measured on? I mean, that's something that we on our team have been doing a lot of recently, is concentrating on how many contacts, new contacts you're bringing into work. So what are some of the metrics that you're measured on, and how do you do those really well?
Well, my metrics are mainly purely how we're moving along opportunities throughout the pipeline. Bringing contacts is absolutely the core of what we're going to have to do to make that happen, but it's not necessarily something we're keeping track of all the time. So I'm going to pass the mic to someone who might more streamlined.
So for me and for our team, thanks for supporting, guys. It's calls, it's emails, it's new accounts added to Salesforce or whatever you're using. So if I know that I need to get, a certain amount of new accounts added per week, I know what I need to do per day, how many calls I need to make, and I think it's neat if you, especially if you're starting in a new role and you don't have that pipeline of emails or that pipeline of contacts, if you stick to, I'm going to get 10 emails per day, I'm going to get 20 calls or 10 accounts per day, 20 emails, 30 calls, or whatever number that is, your pipeline will build without you even really realizing it. You just stick to those minimums. So that's what works for me.
I think I try to be really thoughtful about not just doing activities or metrics like to hit the number, but actually using them in the most effective way. So we're evaluated on calls and emails and in-mails and then qualified opportunities. And I know, like, I try not to stress about hitting that number. I try to just make sure that I'm using each in a strategic way, and the people I'm calling aren't just getting out of the way, or the people I'm emailing isn't just because I'm behind on that. It's actually because I think it's the most effective way to reach out. So I think it's more time management, like how do you get to everything in a week? And I think that's an acquired skill as you keep doing this role. You just get better and better at that. But I think the most important part to remember is like being effective with those metrics and not letting that overshadow the pressure to just hit those metrics.
Okay, so as most of, all 4 of you are senior people on your team. So you've been in the role for 14 months-ish, around that number at least. So what do you do as leaders of the team? So you have to obviously have your own time management, but what do you do to help your peers and other people maybe at that 9-month mark that are looking to take that more leadership role when they know the promotion isn't happening this quarter, for example?
So this is an interesting topic just because I've had this conversation with a couple of SDRs that I work with. The biggest thing that I tell them when they're just at that point where they might get promoted but they haven't yet is patience. Patience is a virtue. Eventually it will happen. Eventually you will get promoted as long as you keep hitting your metrics and you keep working as hard as you can.
I think something that's helped me, I've been an SDR for about 14 months now. I think there's different stages of being an SDR, right? In the beginning, you're ramping up, you're learning all the new skills, it's really exciting to be setting opportunities, and then you kind of hit this middle area where you know what you're doing, it's not quite as exciting anymore, your quota's a little bit higher, and I think that's where engaging your teammates and taking on more responsibility on the team and leadership and helping others really actually invigorates me and keeps me engaged in my job. And I actually think that even though I'm spending less time on my actual job, keeping my energy up and helping others in interesting ways keeps my brain a little bit sharper and keeps me refreshed for what I'm actually doing. So that's something I always try to take on, even though it seems like more responsibility. I think it actually makes me do my job better.
Yeah, I mean, quickly, I think these are all great points. I think one thing that is easy but maybe overlooked is just being a role model as far as your work ethic. Just staying at your desk, getting into the office at a reasonable time, just holding yourself to a certain standard, I think, can set an example for the entire team.
We're jumping to a last question, but I think this is all really relevant of leading the team. Like, if you could give yourself at 3 months a piece of advice, or someone on your team at 3 months, what would you give them? And when you look back at yourself at 3 months, what would you have done differently if you could go back and do it all over again? So Ron, let's start from when you became an SDR the first time. Like, what would you do differently?
We were in a unique situation because we really had to write the playbook on being an SDR within the enterprise space. And I think that if I could have gone back, we would have tried to focus on what made that unique. So it's all about just figuring out exactly what your job is to do at the end of the day and how it can differ from roles that you might have been in the past and execute on it. And it ended up pretty well, so I'm happy with the way it turned out.
I think when I was newer to the role, I was overly conscientious about trying to do things really well and being really good at my job immediately. And it kind of got in my way of actually being better because I just wanted to do things perfectly and I was embarrassed to get on the phone if I didn't know things. And I think looking back, it definitely stopped me from having conversations because I was intimidated by cold calling and I was just more timid on my calls. So I think I would tell someone in 3 months that no one knows that you're new, and also no one on your team expects you to be a rock star right away, and you will improve and you're going to talk to thousands of prospects throughout your time as an SDR, and if you mess one up, the next one will be better, and I promise you're only going to get better.
So a few things that I tell new SDRs is, one, have no fear, because no matter what, it doesn't make a difference. If people don't want to speak to you, someone else will. It's a numbers game in some aspects, and eventually you'll find someone that's interested in what you want. The other thing that I definitely recommend to every new SDR is to build a strong opportunity or account base as you can, prospect as much as possible, because in the end, the stronger your account base is, and the more contacts you have to reach out to that fit your company profile, your buying profile, the better off you're going to be. That's something that I wish I would have focused on more when I first started at Namely, but it's something I definitely would recommend to any new SDR.
Yeah, I liked Liza's point about nobody knows if you're new, especially on the phone. Maybe, so I don't know. I think for me, when I was new, I came from car sales. I knew nothing. Tony can tell you, I didn't know what an agency was during training. So I think like the first 3 months for us, it was using resources that we already have, case studies, blog posts. I wanted to learn every single thing I could about the product we were selling, so that even as a BDR, I could have some familiarity, I could speak the language. So I think soaking it all up, taking advantage of AEs whose calls you maybe can join in, I think just listening is key.
You actually led me perfectly to the next question around product. And you started a company and you have no idea what they do. You thought the company was cool and you get there. And then, or sometimes you go there because of the product. So it depends on how you made your way there. But what steps have you guys taken to really familiarize yourself with the product, with your company's product, from the perspective of the customer?
Yeah, 100%. It's something you gotta learn the product from the inside out, not from your perspective looking in. And the way that I would do that, I mean, I did everything from going over, talking to my competitors and seeing, just trying to have a conversation like I was a broadcaster, pretending I was a broadcaster when I started this role. Researching the history of the industry and what these people have seen in their careers over the past 10 years, 15 years, so on and so forth, that you're trying to sell to, and you're gonna be able to figure out where their brain's at, because you're walking into it, it's new for you, but this person built their career on the product that you're gonna be selling to them. So I'm a history person, that's what I studied when I was in college, so that's always something that really helped me familiarize myself. I could tell the story of the industry like Dan up here.
Yeah, I think when I started, the thing that I realized I could really control is like I can learn the product, and on any call, if I can answer the question about the product, I just have to figure out how to say it. So I watched demos, and a ton of demos, and I watched videos about how my CEO speaks the product, because he does it the most eloquently, and he's the one that created it, and I just tried to copy the way he did it. But I think demos were probably the most effective for me.
So I would say I did a lot of what we both did. I sat on a lot of demos, sat on a lot of customer-facing calls to really understand how we sell and why we sell to them. One thing I did that I think was really useful for me, and this may not apply to everyone, but I went on Google, I went on YouTube, I checked out our competitors, not just to research them, do that from how do we compare A to Z, but to see their platform, see their product, see what our product looks like compared to theirs. And I think this gave me a real advantage because I was able to sell more of the people aspect rather than just sell on data and numbers.
In addition to demos and case studies and all those resources and calls, I think one other thing is just reports that AEs are putting out, just reading sort of the conclusion of a meeting or any notes they have. I mean, a lot of the times those notes are rough, which can be great notes. So all of that together.
And then one thing, and this is maybe just me, but when I start talking about a product and actually start verbalizing it, it's so much easier to then talk about it. So you can watch a million demos till you're blue in the face, or read as many case studies as you possibly can, but if you're not actually verbalizing it to other people and doing some role plays, you're never going to have that confidence. And that's what's really challenging, I think, about a lot of entry-level sales roles, is that either the trainer or something doesn't actually get you talking through the product. So do that with yourself, or do that with peers, or talk to your parents about it if you can, to really verbalize it, because you'll realize the more you say things. I say if you say something about 8 times, it goes in your long-term memory. And so think about it, you actually have to do something fully 8 times for it to really, really stick. And you're still probably you're not perfect at it. So it's a good thing to remember. See how many times it takes you to really be able to verbalize something. Yeah. Okay, let's stick to a couple more tactical things. So in terms of prospecting, I think that's a huge thing that people care about in this room and is a major, major part of your job. So what do your cadences look like? If you find that golden egg, what does that cadence look like?
So yeah, for me it's the ace of spades, it's not the golden egg. I use the same system that George W. Bush used during the Iraq War. So you just roll down the deck of cards. And sometimes you realize though that ace of spades isn't always the most valuable person to talk to at first. You know, you got your eye on the prize in the long run, but you gotta do the white spacing calls. And those are the most fun thing to do. That's where you're gonna pick up all the valuable information. That's where you're gonna learn the situation on the ground of the company, and you're gonna be able to move up into the upper tier of the organization and execute effectively. So we're always trying to do that. And I really wouldn't do it any other way. If I'm trying to get like the VP of OTT or whoever my ideal prospect is on day one, I'm not doing my job well enough to understand what that guy wants to hear or girl wants to hear.
So you're phone.
What's up?
You're a talker.
Yeah, I mean, I am a talker when it comes down to it, but at the same time, because the international nature of my business now, I do need to communicate over email, which wasn't always my strong suit, and I've gotten a lot better at it, and I really enjoy it now. And it's, you have a conversation with every way you can. Like, I'll hit people up over Skype if I have to, and we'll see if we can do it that way, because there's just always a methodology to get in touch.
So I'm a big email girl, like big email girl. Meg does not love that about me. But I use, I don't know if you guys have like technology for opens, and I know that helps me a lot. I'm really paying attention to who's engaging with my emails and strategic about if people aren't opening my emails, I want to spend my time and energy on someone who might. Because it might just be going to spam and I'm personalizing a note that no one ever reads. So if someone is opening my emails, I try to have a really hyper-personalized first touch that shows that I'm a human and I really took the time to understand who they are and why I'm reaching out to them. And then 3 or 4 more touches that are taking no time out of my day, just poke, poke, poke. Did you see my email? Like, I'm trying to get through to you, and maybe on the 5th or 6th step, basically the same value, but different wording of that first hyper-personalized note, and try to do that as much as possible, just to be most efficient while showing them that you care and that they're an individual that you're purposely reaching out to.
So I would say more of a mix, more of cold call and email. I think both perspectives are really helpful, and it just depends on the prospect you're reaching out to. Depends on, you know, how you're lucky enough to get them to respond to you, and just continuously email, call, really setting yourself up to get that response. Usually when you reach out to a prospect from both directions, you'll get a response a lot quicker. At least that's something I've found. And emails and direct Twitter messages, in my opinion, are what I utilize when all else fails.
So, for me, it's my first touch is an email. Hyper-customized subject line, hyper-customized first line, the rest of the emails and the rest of the sequence are standardized. I think it's really important too, you can send the perfect first touch email, you can have a call in your cadence. As a BDR, it's super important to follow up. If somebody says, you know, I'm going out of town for a couple of weeks, reach back out to me in 2 weeks. I don't know, maybe it's easy to fall off the track, track. But you gotta follow up with them. These are people that want to take your meetings in 2 weeks, reach back out to me in 3 months. Like, that person may not expect that I'm gonna reach back out to them in 3 months, but in 3 months I'm gonna attach my email to that original email chain for context and book that meeting. So I think as a BDR, like, you're gonna put in new context, new emails every day, 10, 20, 30. But your follow-ups are gonna be much more than that. I think that's huge.
One thing I just want to add to what you said. You said your first touch is an email. I completely agree, and that's something that I do every time for a strategic reason. Usually, you'll be able to reach out to people right away who will tell you they're interested, and you remove them for your cadence. Or if you send an email first instead of making a call first, well, if you don't have the correct information, you'll know it sooner, and you'll be able to flush it out and find the correct information. Just makes your cadences, or at least mine, a lot more stronger, knowing that I'm reaching out to people that I can engage with.
Yeah, I just want to speak to a point that I think it was Jeremy and Liza made, which is, your follow-ups and how you're going to keep on pinging people and poking them and saying hey, can you hear me? Always follow up with something relevant, and when you are hyper-personalizing emails, because I do it every single day, hyper-personalizing LinkedIn messages every single day, you got to make sure it's something relevant. Like, you can go through everyone's LinkedIn profile and see this guy loves kayaking, and they don't necessarily want to hear that in a sales email, but if you see something about their company, anything even remotely related to them, like, bring that up, even if it's something from a department they have nothing to do with. And to me, that's what really counts, is just bringing your emails, making every single email you send to a prospect relevant. And that's what really counts at the end of the day.
So you guys were touching on InMails, and it sounds like across the board you guys all see success with InMails, and that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of social selling. And I know it's like a buzzy word that people talk about. What is social selling, right? And I think it's, in my mind, it's hitting up prospects in multiple ways outside of the calls and the emails, InMails included, but also referrals are a huge piece of social selling. The Twitter messages and Twitter direct messages, that's something. Following people's blog posts and commenting and sharing what they're posting. What do you guys do in terms of social selling that's helped you possibly get 1 or 2 demos in your day, or specific things you do in your cadences that have made a big difference in the social selling realm?
Yeah, so I'll start with this then. One thing that I do and that I've done for a long time is I've joined a lot of HR groups, since we target HR employees, just so I can see how they're communicating on a day-to-day basis and what they're engaged with. And a lot of times I'll come across potential customers that will already be interested, already looking for the solution that we provide. And right away I have an easy layup opportunity because I went on the same groups that they are in LinkedIn or on Twitter, and I know they're already engaged and they want someone to reach out to them. I'll never do it through that group because, in my opinion, it just doesn't look good. I'll reach out to them directly, either by phone, InMail, whatever it would be. But that's one way I'm really utilizing social selling in LinkedIn. Another thing that I'll do is I'll ask for referrals. I'll reach out to someone that I know that may be a mutual connection with someone else, and I'll just ask if they'll introduce me, or if they may have any insight for me. And one other thing I would say is, your competition says a lot on Twitter, and there's a lot that you can find out about them through, good or bad.
So I personally don't social sell that much, but I know people on my team do a very good job of this. And I think something that people do that have had success is reading articles where people are quoted and actually use that quote as a subject line, or I read this that you actually said, and this is why this is relevant to what I'm trying to speak to you about. I actually think this aligns with what you just said your goal is. And so it doesn't happen every time, but when someone appreciates you taking the time to read what they're thinking about, and if it's relevant enough and you paint the picture of why it's connected, I think that's a really easy way in. Additionally, with Twitter, people all the time feel comfortable posting things like, I hate my blah, 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 or this is a nightmare, like, why do we use this? And sometimes it's not always serious, but sometimes that's a bullseye for someone wanting to buy something new. So definitely easy way to just scroll through in your free time to see if there is a layup there.
Yeah, when you're going through any sales process, it's constantly going to be a battle between the language that the customer is using and the language that you guys use internally. So a huge thing would be speaking to the customer within their own language and within their own words, and nothing's like getting an email with the subject line is something that you said. I don't think there's a way you can't not reply to that. I just wouldn't be able to do it. So that's something that I do as well, and also just see what people care about at the company and share it with them. Comment on their posts, and like I said before, these people are paying attention to their organization. So if you're going to be effective in speaking to it, you can do it from all realms.
Yeah, I think what all of this means is we're trying to get the timing right? And that's what it comes down to. And so figuring out, and that's why social selling is actually such a valuable thing, is that you're catching people in the moment when they're actually having feelings, and you're getting them at that emotional level when they're posting that they hate this software that they're using. Literally today, someone on my team that's brand new, has no experience, caught someone while they were on hold with the current software that we are the competition to. and they immediately took the demo because they were really pissed off. And like, how do you get that timing right? That was a fluke, but I think it's really, really clear that you have these social selling pieces of just really being active on what people are doing that you're trying to sell to that make a huge difference. So, cool. All right, so last kind of section, let's talk about some of the calling stuff in terms of handling objections, and this could also be via email. But I think all SDRs get a variety of pushbacks, objections, whatever you want to call them. So what's the main one that you run into and that you can really confidently, that's not product specific, try to keep it broad, that you can speak to and give some tips and tricks on how you've handled it really successfully? Yeah.
So you hear a lot of, call me in 3 months, call me in 6 months, let's talk next year. So people have these things on the back burner or projects on the back burner forever. So I think the biggest objection that you're going to get is figuring out a way to say maybe you should prioritize this more. And that you can do that in a million different ways. You can talk about what their competitors are doing. You can talk about what the industry is doing in general. You can just try to get them excited. And I think it depends all on the specific products you're going to work with. But the main thing is to move things back from the back burner and put it right into the forefront. That's the most difficult thing I deal with in terms of objections. And it's hard to do, but we figure it out.
Something that I've had a lot of luck with recently is when people respond saying, we use so-and-so competitor, thanks anyways. And although that's a no, I usually respond being like, thanks for the response. And yes, that's actually exactly why I'm reaching out. I see that you're using that competitor and that's relevant because. And a lot of people have actually gotten back to me with that pushback. And I think it's effective because you're not saying something negative, you're saying something positive. Like, yeah, I did see that. And that's exactly why I'm engaging in this conversation instead of like, they do this, they do this. It's about you're agreeing with them and you actually have a conversation about why it's relevant for them to speak to you. So I've run quite a few demos that way for people that I actually thought were kind of rude to me on that first reply that came back on that second reply and said, okay, maybe I'll have this conversation.
So I would say the biggest objection I face on a daily basis would be, what does your company do and who are you guys? Never heard of you guys before. I'm sure a lot of us get the same objection, and the biggest way that I handle it is instead of selling them on who we are and what we do, I listen to who they are and the struggles that they're having, the pain points they have. And I do my best to be able to tell them, okay, I see that you're having issue A, B, and C. Well, what if we could solve these for you? Would that be of interest to you? Things along those lines. So instead of me selling and pitching, I'm more listening to their issues, letting them talk, and really just taking it all in.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of our job to get objections. So as much as I can, I try to standardize everything. I try to templatize as much as I can, as much of my responses, so that I have the meat of what I want to say, but I can customize it or make it relevant. But I think another point is that as BDRs, we're not selling products, we're not getting signatures on contracts, we're just asking for time. So when somebody says they're not interested, or they're putting up a guard, I just come back to them and I say, look, I'm just trying to start a conversation, dialogue. Sometimes I'll even flat out say, look, there's no expectation of signing contracts or run through a demo, let's just talk. And I think sometimes that's enough.
I think that's a really good point. I often in my emails say, like, even if you're not anticipating making a switch anytime soon, I'd love to at least just facilitate an intro. And it's kind of a soft ask, and sometimes if they have a little time, it works really well.
Yeah, you can learn as much from your customers as they can learn from you. So like I've learned tons just from talking to them about the mistakes that they've made within my industry, within content delivery, and just trying to learn how to tell my story better based on their experiences.
All right. So probably the last one is just what's next for you guys, right? And you're kind of at that next cusp. And I know that's the question that hey, but these are people looking for what is that next step in your careers. So is that path clear? Maybe not. It's okay if it's not. But what are you looking to do after this, having been successful so far?
I'm actually interviewing for an AE role on Thursday, so potentially my last week as an SDR, but potentially not, so we'll see.
So this is one that is currently, in my opinion, a work in progress. I have been working with the vice president I work under. I've been working with my manager with an open line of communication on what I want to do next. You know, whether I want to get into an AD role, whether I want to get into a manager role. Really having that open line of communication and working with the individual performance plan that they provide us on the metrics we have to hit to make sure I'm consistently hitting them, as well as the career matrix that has been laid out for us, that I'm doing everything possible I can to give myself the opportunity or the opportunities that I want.
I'm going to Disney World. No, I think like it's interesting. I want to be in sales. I want to be an account executive and sell product. And I've learned quickly that when somebody leaves, that does not mean that somebody can fill a role. So I think when you're a tenured BDR, you know, performing well, I think instead of going out to your manager and trying to seek an opportunity that's not there, and making awkward one-on-ones, I think it's better just to put yourself in a position performance-wise so that they have to notice you. You know, they'll see your numbers, they'll see your performance, and they'll, you hope, fight to get you to the next role. So I think that's.
I would say the biggest thing you have to do is really just be honest with the people you're working for and let them know what you want in your career, where you want to go. Because if you're doing a great job and you're killing it, they're going to want to keep you there and they're going to want you to move on. As long as you're showing the effort, the results, and the fact that you can do the job, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't have an open line of communication and just be straightforward.
I'd also say being very clear about what you want way in advance of that role opening up. So don't just take interest in like your director as soon as you realize that the role is opening up and he's the person you need to speak to. Like be clear with multiple people. This is what I want. I know this might not be happening now, but I want to improve so that when that does come around, I'm ready and I'm qualified. So just working in advance, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different than dealing with your prospects. Network internally, create a champion out of somebody at the organization that you want to work under, and you can figure out a way to have them be on your side always. And even if you don't end up working for them in the long run and you find another opportunity, you still have a really strong internal network at the org, and they're always going to help you out. And it's what I did.
All right. So we'll end it there with me asking them questions. So I want to give you guys a chance to ask them some questions. You guys have about 15, 20 minutes, and then you guys can do some more networking. So any questions, and I will, like, order in which I see hands is how I answer, so I'm not trying not to be rude. But yes, I already saw hands, so feel free to ask away. Sorry, you guys are slow. Just kidding. Yes, and speak up really loud if you can.
This question is for Liza. You mentioned the tool that you use to track opens. What other tools, or I guess for everyone, what other tools do you guys use that you found really helpful with cadences, the tracking, or this process?
We can talk after if you really want to get into it. I've automated everything, and I love automating everything, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But at the same time, it's, you know, you put crap in and you get crap out. So even if you automate everything, you got to make sure that your inputs are there to make it work for you.
Yeah, we've used a lot of different tools in my time at Greenhouse. So we've used Outreach and Sales Off Cadence as the two for email automation. We've used Sirius Insight for tracking opens. We've used DataFox for prospecting different lists and different types of companies. We use Kite Desk for finding numbers and emails, like direct dials. But there was a time we were using no automation tools as well. So finding that balance, I think, is good.
So you guys provided a lot of tools that you have to pay for, so I'll provide some free tools for everyone. A few that obviously we all use, LinkedIn. Shocker enough. But one thing that you can utilize LinkedIn for, if you have a tool like Adanomize or like SalesLoft Prospector, is you don't need to get Navigator. You just go on LinkedIn, go to advanced search, pull up the title of the position that you're prospecting, and it'll tell you a lot more information than you never imagined. Another thing that I use on a daily basis is Google is your best friend. You put in someone's first name, last name, company name, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever it may be. It's going to tell you a lot more about a company or a prospect than you would ever imagine. A couple other sites that I use for company lists, one would be Built-in. It's a great tool for startups, just to get names of companies. Another one would be, and they're good for company names. I wouldn't use them for prospects or people to contact, but Inside View, Data.com, just a couple of free tools that I would recommend checking out.
Outreach. It's really good.
That's another really good one, and I think it's a little less than Sales Off Cadence. I would definitely check that out.
Just by building off Greg's point, learn Boolean search in Google. Don't Google like an amateur because it's really powerful and it's a lot of fun. And more importantly than that, I just think even if you have all these tools, you just got to figure out a way to make them all work together. Don't have anything existing in its own little vacuum. It's just going to waste time, and figure out a way to have communication between them.
I think what's really important with tools is don't use them to have them do your job. Use them for the parts of your job that are less important so you can focus more time on the most important prospects and don't automate those. Like, use it as a crutch, but not as a replacement.
Just, one more point with that though, is like okay.
He'll talk it. We'll ask like 1 or 2 more questions because we're really, really getting there. Yeah, in the striped shirt. Or it's checked. Yeah. Striped shirt.
When you're planning out your day, do you have a set schedule of how much time you want to spend per task? Or do you just kind of freestyle it, knowing the kind of things that you want to do, and then put as much time and energy into them as you feel is necessary?
Alright, I'm gonna get a minute max answer for one of you. Who wants to Okay.
So this is something that I schedule out the exact times that I want to do it, because the biggest thing in my opinion is staying focused and making sure you're putting the time into what you need to do, whether it's prospecting, sending emails, cold calling. It's also about utilizing your analytics and making sure you're reaching out to people at the smart times and the best times. One thing that I did was I put together the analytics for the best times to cold call, meaning the best times for getting people on the phone and actually having conversations. Typically, we found that as soon as you get into the office and then before you leave are when we're seeing the best times to actually reach out to people and get them on the phone. Did the same thing for sending in emails for when we're actually getting responses, which was pretty similar, pretty early in the day. So it's just about prioritizing your day to the best of what you're doing and making sure you're able to not just do it, but back it up with the numbers and seeing that you're successful.
Yeah, I'm a video gamer, so I like gamification. So it's all about just like unlocking achievements throughout the day. I don't have time limits for anything, but I got that to-do list, and at the end of the day, if I see it's complete, that's the best feeling ever. But beyond that, it's really not science.
Depends on how long you've been in the job too. If you're early in the job, scheduling it out and seeing if that works is always a good starting point. All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've spent the last quarter really looking into our conversion rates. Do you guys have anything around meetings set to people bailing? So do you guys have anything other than just calling until the phone breaks for people that skip meetings or just go dark?
So are you asking about like specific no-shows of demos not showing up? Strategies?
What level in the organization are your prospects?
Really all over. We're small and smaller companies.
I mean, looping someone's boss in is the best thing you can do. And something that I like to do is, even if I get a referral from someone's boss to talk to one of their subordinates, keep them posted with every step of the sales process. Say like, hey look, I spoke to so-and-so, just wanted to fill you in on our conversation, because eventually that person's gonna come around, they're gonna be the one signing the contract. So I love going after people's bosses. And from the same token, you can go after people's subordinates too, because if they hear noise that they're getting, the same company and contacting them over and over again, it'll be, they'll hear it finally. So that's what I like to do.
I'd say 2 things. When you set an appointment a week in advance of when it's scheduled, check in a couple of days before to see if that time still works for them, because that means they still have time. If it doesn't work for them, they can find a better time that they'll show up for. If it's the same week, send in first thing in the morning that day so that they aren't caught up in meetings and don't see it. I also think if someone's gone dark on you, you're trying to track them down, I try to take like a very human approach, and I send an email that says still interested with a question mark. and I say, wondering if you're still interested in talking. I know you told me this, and this about our conversation. If so, would love to find a better time for you. If not, let me know so I'm not cluttering your inbox unnecessarily. And I kind of make it funny with a smiley face. That way, if they're really not interested anymore and you have no hope of getting them back, you don't have to waste your time and they'll just tell you politely. Either way, you get your answer.
So yeah, I would do a lot of what they're saying. Some other things that I do that I think really help get people to stay committed to the time that they tell me they're going to show up for, discovery call, demo, whatever you want to call it, is I'll send a reminder the night before, just so they have it fresh in their email or inbox the next morning. The other thing that I'll do is, when I first set up my discovery call, my call with the prospect, I'll send out just an invite. I'm sure a lot of us have like dial-in information, call bridges. I don't actually provide that until the night before the call or the day before the call. So I use that as a second reminder. Either you're going to get a notification from me through email or you're going to see something else pop up on your calendar. This way I'm reaching out from both perspectives.
Yeah, that's it.
Last question, you guys in the back. Very persistent.
Question, Ron, you were talking about filling in the white spaces, the blank spaces, by talking with people around the organization to get the view of what's actually happening. Sometimes we get into this trap where we're sort of doing deep customer development with one guy. There's like the one point of contact. And you know that there's other people around, and then it becomes sort of awkward. Like, is it okay to just go to those people and try to strike up conversations with them, or do you like tell your main contact, like, well, we want to have these other conversations too? How do you go about that?
I'll just quickly say, I say at a minimum on any account you're working, a minimum of 3 contacts. No matter who the exact perfect person is, hopefully some of those other people can help do that white spacing for you. So.
Yeah, and I agree. You always have a couple contacts, but I guess the main way I would speak to that is don't find yourself in that trap in the first place. It depends on the size of the organization you're in, and you don't want to build a champion out of someone who's not necessarily going to help you get to the finish line. So, and also, these people have teams, and you could loop in a team. It's more valuable than looping in an individual. So if you can have them expand the conversation for you and say, look, who else can we incorporate into this discussion? I think that that's a really fun thing to do. But if you find yourself in that trap and that person is a lower ranking person at the organization, you just got to reach out to more people. And what's the worst that could happen? It's not like, you don't have a commitment to them.
I would like to end one last thing. Is there like a book or a movie, blog, just something really inspirational, just so you could share with people and maybe dig in after the fact?
Book or, Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, great book. So with my VP, I'll just tell the book. Let's Get Real or Let's Not Play is, I think, a great book. It's a lot of consultative type insights. The appendix alone is worth the read. It's my red.
I mean, we're going over movies that inspire me. It's Mad Max Fury Road. But if we're going over sales books that I like, I mean, Cold Calling 2.0 is like, that's the original document. That's the founding document of, a lot of what we're doing. So I recommend looking into that.
I mean, I really don't have a book or quote or blog, but one thing that I would say is I joined the AISP, the Inside Sales Association. One thing that I would say is really, really helpful is they have all their conferences, all their meetups in the past couple of years, their presentations, everything on their website once you join in their portal. And I've gone through it, I've seen all the speakers from a lot of large companies and what they have to say. And it's just really useful to be able to go back and learn a little bit each time as you go into it about inside sales, about sales development, and really see how sales development has changed and grown over the years.
And I've said this last time, but Fanatical Prospecting is my new favorite book. So, and the Challenger Sale is great. And Predictable Revenue,
That's the one, though. That's
the base.
It's not Cold Calling 2.0. It's called Predictable Revenue. It's Salesforce guy. That's his process that he created.
Right.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, Greg. Awesome. Well, we will leave it at that today. today. Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank Parkley again for hosting us here. Those notebooks, I think, are for years to keep, let's hope, because hopefully you take it in them. Yes, absolutely. And we will be having our next event specifically for the sales development meetup the first Tuesday in November. More details to come, but Mark's going to say one quick announcement about a really cool event.
Can we just give another amazing round of applause, not only for Parkley, but our amazing speakers tonight.